Wow, where do we even begin? The Houston Texans are 0-4, ahead of a Week 5 matchup with the Jaguars. They just fired their head coach and general manager, Bill O'Brien, and thanks to him, the Texans have the highest payroll in the NFL.
They also don't have their first or second round pick in the upcoming draft. Thanks again, Bill O'Brien. They're set up for disaster in the present and near future. Houston, we have a problem.
Touchdown, Houston! 21-yard rushing touchdown to Sean Watson.
Sportsified.
Let's start off with a recap of the Texans' year up to this point. They've mostly played really good teams like the Chiefs, Ravens, and Steelers, but prior to the season, Houston was expected to be able to hang around with those teams. Instead, they lost by 14 to Kansas City in the first game of the season, got beat by 15 by Baltimore the next week, and lost a close game to the Steelers by a touchdown. So it may seem not all that bad, but the next week they lost to a previously winless Minnesota team by 8.
The Texans' defense has been surrendering 31.5 points per game so far this season. That's just bad. They've allowed opposing quarterbacks to complete just over 71% of passes, which is the 8th worst mark in the league, along with a 115 passer rating, worse than only the Falcons. This is a team with J.J. Watt. Come on. Oh, and they haven't gotten an interception all year. Houston's the only team without a pick through the first 4 weeks.
Wow. And their run defense, it's somehow even worse. They've allowed 727 rushing yards, which is the worst in the league. Andrew, that's like 150 rushing yards a game.
Yeah.
Over that.
hmm
Houston also has the most 20-plus yard runs against them, with 6. There's no other way to put it. The Texans' defense is maybe the worst in the NFL.
Yeah, it's brutal. And what about their 2020 offense? Their passing game, led by Deshaun Watson, sits comfortably in the middle of the pack with a 65.6% completion rate and a 98.2 passer rating, even without DeAndre Hopkins. We'll get to that disaster later. When the Texans decide to run the ball on offense, it's about the same as their dreadful run defense. They've rushed for a league worst 294 yards, gaining a mere 3.7 yards per carry. Houston has 0 runs over 20 yards. 0. Even with Watson, the 2017 12th overall pick at quarterback, the Texans' offense is also one of the worst in the NFL.
This all adds up to an 0-4 record coming into Week 5. Someone had to take the fall, and rightfully, that was the Texans' head coach and general manager, Bill O'Brien. Owner Cal McNair pulled the trigger on O'Brien's tenure in Houston a couple days ago, after a 54-52 record through 6-plus seasons. Under him, the Texans never got past the divisional round of the playoffs.
He made many terrible trades too, setting them up for, well, disaster. The first 4 trades O'Brien made came on August 31st, 2019. First, he sent a 2020 6th-round pick to the Patriots for cornerback Keon Crossan. Next, on the same day, he sent offensive tackle Martinez Rankin to the Chiefs for running back Carlos Hyde. Those were his only good trades.
For his second to last trade of that dreadful August 31st, he traded cornerback Johnson Bademosi, left tackle Julian Davenport, a 2021 first and second round pick, and the 26th overall pick in the 2020 draft to the Dolphins, and received left tackle Laramie Tunsil, wide receiver Kenny Stills, and a 4th and 6th round pick. While Tunsil is one of the best young tackles in the game, Houston inked him to a 4-year extension worth around $18.5 million a year. That price, coupled with losing their first and second round pick of this upcoming draft, made this an obvious lose for the Texans.
And that same day, Bill O'Brien traded star pass rusher Jadeveon Clowney to the Seahawks and received linebackers for Cavius Mingo and Jake Martin, along with a 2020 third-round pick. Again, not a very good trade. He later traded that third-rounder for cornerback Garyon Conley, who has been a semi-disappointment in Houston.
And you thought that Jadeveon Clowney trade was bad. Now we're at the worst one. The Houston Texans traded one of the best wide receivers in the NFL, DeAndre Hopkins, along with a 4th round pick to the Cardinals, for running back Duke Johnson, who gets paid $11 million a year, a 2021 4th round pick, and a 2nd round pick in the 2020 draft, who turned out to be defensive tackle Ross Blacklock. That's a very underwhelming return for DeAndre Hopkins, one of the best receivers in the whole league.
And you have to wonder, why would you trade Hopkins? He had great chemistry with their young quarterback Deshaun Watson, and they created one of the best duos in the game. It's almost like O'Brien was trying to lose. In his final trade, he got wide receiver Brandon Cooks and a 4th rounder for the Rams for a 2nd round pick, which became young wideout Von Jefferson.
So in summary, Bill O'Brien gave up DeAndre Hopkins, Jadeveon Clowney, 2 first-rounders, 2 second-rounders, and a fourth-rounder, for just Laramie Tunsil, David Johnson, Brandon Cooks, Kenny Stills, a second-rounder, a third-rounder, and 3 fourth-rounders. That's terrible.
Yeah. All right, to wrap this thing up, let's talk about their astonishing payroll. The Texans have the highest money owed in contracts in the entire NFL, thanks to 13 players receiving over $5 million a year. And most of those players have extensions that will raise that cost. Houston owes J.J. Watt $15 million a season, Laramie Tunsil $18 million a year, linebacker Whitney Merciless $13 million, David Johnson $10 million, Will Fuller $10 million, Deshaun only $10 million a year currently, but soon to be $40 million a season. You get the idea.
The Houston Texans' payroll is a disaster. Their offense is a disaster. Their defense is a disaster. They don't have their first or second round pick in the 2021 draft, and they're currently without a head coach or general manager.
Yeah, the Houston Texans are an absolute disaster. Thanks for taking time to watch Sportsified News. Make sure to subscribe down below to catch up on all our newest content.
Check out our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and more. To find the latest sports news, go to our website at sportsifiednews.wixsite.com/home. See you in the next one.
In there and hangs in there and then finds a way to win games.
Here's Watson play action, airs it out, downfield, Fuller. What a throw and catch! Kenny Moore in coverage.